It's Tuesday, so it's time for another top 10 video. This time we're going to be discussing Dungeons & Dragons based apps, and we're going to be doing a top 8 because I couldn't really find two more to make around top 10. So my patrons voted. It was a dead tie between this and low challenge rating monsters, so I chose to go with D&D apps. If you want to see what they are and the rules behind it, stay tuned. I guess there is an app for that. What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and the rules before we jump in real quick are it has to be an app available on a tablet or a phone, and it has to be tied to Dungeons & Dragons. And I didn't want to be like super cheesy and be like, your internet app so you can access the internet and go to D&D Beyond, because that's dumb. Like, it has to be a specific app designed for Dungeons & Dragons. Speaking of, you heard me mention my patrons voted. If you really wanted low challenge rating monsters instead of getting this, it's a good idea possibly to go check out the Patreon because you get to vote every week what the top 10 video is going to be. So that being said, I have my phone synced to my computer, so we're going to jump in to this in just a sec. Number 8. We have what is called the 5th edition character sheet. This is the reason it's on the top of the list is I don't really use this app anymore. I used to use it all the time because it was super useful and it allowed you to create characters in on your phone. So if you go ahead and take a look, we can click on this and you can see all the characters that I've created over the years in here for a bunch of different things. So if we go here and click on this, you can see it has a breakdown of all the different character stuff. And I think it had like a cease and desist on it at one point because it had like stuff you're not supposed to have. That's not like open game license, but you can see you have your whole character stat block. It's also presented really nice. I mean, you're seeing it here, but like on the phone, it's nice and big. You can almost see it there, how much easy it is to see. Here's all your skills. Here's kind of your attacks. Then you have to put in your spells individually, and they don't tell you what the spells do, but unless they come from a race. And then you have all your features, right? It lists everything out. And I don't know, it was a very common thing. We can go in here and we can create a new character, and you can see use the character creator, and it gives you the breakdown. What kind of character do you want? It's been updated relatively recently. From the looks of it, it has Ravnica races. But obviously they can't be called whatever they are called in Wizards of the Coast language. So that's why we have we have bird folk, we have animal hybrid, which I think, and we have elephantine, and so on. So we can click serpent blood. That's going to be our UNT. We could choose our type of class. So let's just pick cleric, and we'll pick. We have all of the backgrounds that existed at that point. Shipwright, that's a ghost salt marsh one. We can choose to how we want to set up. We can build it with a standard array. We can do point buy. We can roll, and it'll generate things for us randomly if we want. Or we can do 46. There we go. That's what we'll be rolling with. Then we can hit next. Choose our 2 skills. We'll just choose insight and persuasion. And then we pick our domain, and it gives you a little bit of a background on what each domain gets. So let's just pick the light domain, for example. Gives us our hit points, how we want to handle it. And then we choose all that stuff, and then it's done, and we'll just put in a name. And then now we have a base character that's already been built out. It's going to have what our domain spells are automatically added in. And again, I just don't use this anymore because I use D&D Beyond consistently. But before I had that, or if you don't want to use D&D Beyond because you don't want to pay for the subscription or anything like that, this is a fantastic app. I believe it is only Android. I have an Android phone, so I can't speak to the iPhone. But it also has a complete homebrew. There's a bunch of other subsequent apps. There's a homebrewing app where you can design and create your own homebrew things like homebrew subclasses and stuff, and then upload it so it'll be available for you in the app. Number 7. Reroll is an app for creating characters. I don't really need to go into this. I did a full review of it on the channel, and a lot of people are familiar with it, but I am a big fan of the 16-bit era of video games. That was kind of a large part of my childhood. I was growing up playing, Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. So what this is is a 16-bit character creator. It does seem to be a little on the slow side at the moment as far as things are loading in, as far as the fact that half my character didn't load. But we can go ahead here and see the rest is starting to pop in as we look here. But you can see you can build out a whole 16-bit character. And again, for someone like me who's not an artist, I don't have the capability to draw something like this, even sprite-wise. So we can go ahead and click in here and choose and change a bunch of things about the character. We can choose this and give him a cloak instead if we wanted. And we can click on the sliders and change the color of things. See the rest of the characters loading in. Being a little laggy for me. I don't know if that's my internet. I've been having problems with it lately, but we can, well, our cloak isn't appearing, but we could adjust the saturation and the hue and the brightness of our cloak were it working. And then let's try our lightsaber here. Here it is. Oh, can we change the saturation? Yeah, see, we can change the hue, make it a green lightsaber, orange lightsaber, whatever kind of color we want. But anyway, you get the point. They have a ton of different race options. They keep expanding and keep adding to it. They just added a whole bunch of different armor, as well as various beast races like fox folk and rat folk and lizard folk, and a whole bunch of different options are now available. You can get, I don't know if pets are available to everybody. That might just have been Kickstarter folks, but you know, all sorts of cool options to help you visualize your character in a cool 16-bit fashion. Number 6. D&D Dungeon Generator. I don't know if there are better options out there, but if you're a dungeon master, chances are you found yourself in a pickle where you need to improvise something relatively quickly. So one thing you can do is use some sort of dungeon generation tool or try to do it at random. This app does it for you. So if I go ahead and click this and choose to generate a new dungeon, you can see we have a couple of, it says leave empty room or for random seed. You can put that in yourself if you want. You can enter the seed, the size of the different rooms. The longest corridor will be prioritized. Shortest corridor will be prioritized. We can choose your frequency. Let's go with a little bit more treasure, a little bit more traps, depth of the dungeon, and we'll just hit create. Okay. So it's going to tell us that this is the prison of the impenetrable something. It's created by dwarves. It's in a gorge. A stronghold provides a secure base of operations for villains and monsters. It's been abandoned by creatures in its 2 floors. So if we go ahead and click the map, it already generates a map for us. It has 2 floors. We can see the different floors, but if we click on each one, it'll give us information, right? So room number 9 is 82 by 51. That's a really funky size thing, but no interesting traits. Treasure appears to be gold coins pouring out of statue's mouth in the center of the room. Nothing in this one. Let's see if we get one. This one has a mechanical trap in this room. Read more about it, and it just references the DMG for the traps. Someone or something has been in this room recently. There's a dead giant spider in the center of the room. There's an abundance of treasure in this room. See if we can find one. A mural of geometric patterns covered in the walls were hieroglyphs on the northwest wall. Here we go. So it's got a green hag, 4 green hags from the looks of it, and a trap and treasure. So again, it is not going to be someone scrawled "run away" on the northeast wall, shimmering chest in the corner of the room. Again, it's not perfect, but it is quick and dirty if you need it. Also, this one, that the bloody tunnels, is another one that I generated. One of the rooms, here it is. Yeah, the sound of dripping water can be heard in the distance. Someone wrote "don't blink" in blood on the floor, right? Like, I mean, I can't argue with Doctor Who references. So, the prison of impenetrable skulls. Again, I haven't been using this app for too much because I don't typically find myself in a scenario where I need to generate a dungeon quickly. But this can help. It also might be good for naming conventions as well as ideas if you just flip through the different rooms for stuff to plant in. Even if you're using an existing dungeon, maybe you want to swap something out. Number 5. We've all been there as DMs where you need a name for a character and you don't have one, and chances are the ones you come up with on the fly are not great. So that's where D&D Names Generator comes into play. There is a pro version of this, I think, that just gets rid of ads, but you can see you can generate male, female, and a bunch of different races. Actually, let's just save the names for later, and it tells you what the names mean. So if we go ahead and click elf, we'll go with a male elf and we'll generate a name. It's Iliel, and it tells you that the name means mist gift or mist giver. See, Evdar is stag and world, and we can hit this plus button. And if we go and swipe over here, it'll save the names that we've chosen off to the side. I don't know what the pro version does differently, but let's see if we go to Dragonborn. I feel like Dragonborn seems more like dragon, but if we click, let's see, this looks like a dragon's name to me. Litric Janakux or whatever, how you pronounce that, Armor Hammer. Yeah, these look very much like dragon names, not Dragonborn names. How about a gnome? Careflon, Scorewin, Whisper, and again, it'll give you what they all mean. Plus, gnomes usually have funky names, so that's always fun. Rasa, Ruma, Sparkle, Mika. So you get the idea. Again, for when you're really in a pickle and you're trying to come up with a name, this is something you can have in the back your pocket to do that, or you can use this, generate a bunch of names, save them, and then kind of make your own list to pull from so that you're not using everybody else's standard list of names or having to roll randomly in the back of Xanathar's guide to come up with them. Number 4. Magwa's Magical Item Compendium. I will say I'll try to put links at least to the Play Store because I have an Android phone for all of these if you want to go and try and pick them up for yourself. So this is a magic item creation app. Now, I like creating magic items myself, but sometimes you want to just add something in or sprinkle something in a little bit different or a little bit more unique. Well, this one gives you a ton of randomly created options in a 5th edition style with pretty sweet art. So you can create your own item here, as you can see, and I'm not sure if the items that are in here are created by other people. You can save items if you have ones that you specifically like here's a bag of holding, glamored studded armor, here's a Magwa statue, right, specific from the creators, but I can go random. And here's planar armor, right, very rare hide armor, +2 to AC. As an action, you can speak a command word to create a booming noise that emanates from this armor. All creatures within a 30-foot radius make a con save. On a failure, they're deafened. At the end of each of its turns, it can make a DC 10 con save. On a success, it ends. And then after creating a booming noise, it can't do this again for 24 hours. And you can see here, you can save it, share it, just get more items. Oh, and it'll show you, adventure packs, the master collection. Oh, okay, you can buy more items. See, that's new. 7 wondrous items. Here's all this, mines, all these different items. You can buy additional sets, which is pretty sweet. We can just go back and create another random item. Armor of halting, resistance to non-magical damage while wearing this armor. Sword of the Maiden Tail Lagoon. This is a very rare one, +2 longsword. Speak a command word, the sword becomes invisible. Speaking command word again brings it back. You have advantage on your first attack roll after the sword becomes invisible. After making an attack, it is no longer invisible, and you gain no additional advantage. In addition, speaking the command word will not have any effect for 1d6 hours. Again, you can keep creating a bunch of different magic items with this, and they're really good. So I find myself, again, not necessarily needing to create the magic items on the fly, but when I want to populate a dragon's hoard or a dungeon, I can go through this app, and I may be looking into buying some of those other options just to expand the pool of magic items I can have at my fingertips. Number 3. This is DnDice, so D, the letter N, and dice. It's a die rolling app. I feel like everybody should have one on their phone. You can't necessarily always have your dice with you, or at least not everybody can, but you usually have your phone, and a dice rolling app is a good thing to have. This one's pretty advanced in the features that it has. It has a whole bunch of different options, as you can see here. You can set up the different modes, the graphics, how the effects work, different controls, whether you can use shake and motion control to move things, or you do it with shake things with your fingers. You can set it as a live wallpaper for your background. You can, let's see, if we click and drag on here, I don't think I thought you could change the background, but if we see here, you can see I can add a whole bunch of different dice. So I have all these current options, but I can create my own custom dice, like a D30, 43, 65, whatever I want. And you can also build, as you can see on the bottom here, you can build presets. So I built this preset, which is 46 drop the lowest. So it'll do that for me, and you see the number in the corner is 13. So I can do that if I want to roll stats. It's an option. I can go back into the app here and I can roll 2d8. I have that as a preset just set, and I can just keep going, rolling 2d8. Like you see, I can pick the dice up. I can, see I held too long, but I can pick it up. I can drag it around. I can throw it if I want to roll it. I can press long and I can choose the color of the die, choose the font color of the die. Here's 5d6 reroll 1s and 2s, right? And then keep the highest 3. So you can build pretty complex presets, and I think you can have up to 20 different dice presets. Here's just a standard D20 that you could just have it roll. You could set it up to do advantage, disadvantage. You could do a lot of stuff with this. Again, even if you're not doing this like on the side when you don't have your books, you could set up, if you have very high level spells that you cast, you don't have access to some other kind of die roller, you can have it built up to have like I'm going to cast Fireball and have it preset to cast 8d6, and you just hit the button and it'll go. And again, there's all sorts of different functionality that you can do and change things around. Like I said, you might even be able to change the background on this if you want. Here we go. Here's the dice style with, playground material. You can change the background here. You could take your own photo if you wanted. Like we could put it on a casino table. See? That's a casino table. So it has a lot of customization, which is pretty cool, and I enjoy that. Again, do your D6s have pips or numbers? All sorts of pretty cool options. And if you're worried about like the resource how intensive it is on your phone, you can shut off particle effects and shadows and things like that, and it'll be a much more standard app, and it'll still do what it needs to do. Number 2. The Companions app. Again, I can't speak to if this exists on, iPhone or iOS, but I have this on Android. It's just called Companions. And basically, this is going to be just a breakdown of what you can have as far as animal companions and familiars and things like that. It does have some funky rules where they added in some stuff that's not necessarily true, and I don't know where those options came from, but I find this very easy if I want to choose, like, let's say Wild Shape, as you can see is an option here. If I click this, it's Wild Shape, Ranger, Familiar, Polymorph, Elemental, Fae. So let's say I wanted to Polymorph. It's automatically going to cull the list to only include beasts. And then I can choose to say, well, here's the level. Let's go challenge rating 4. And this will show me all the challenge rating 4 beasts, which happens to just be Elephant and Stegosaurus. Here's all the challenge rating 2 beasts. You'll see there's some funky stuff, like there's 2 Pachycephalosauri here in the list. I don't know why, but they did seem to add in some stuff that I don't recognize where it's from, like a giant spitting lizard. I don't know, I wish they would source them to tell you where they're from, because I know like Dilophosaurus is in here, and Dilophosaurus is not a canonical 5th edition monster. I know it was added in one of the DM's Guild adept things for Tomb of Annihilation, but I don't know if it's pulling from that or from somewhere else. So I'm not entirely sure where a lot of these are coming from, but it's really good if you want it to be, I'd say specifically for a ranger, if you need to see what options you can choose for your different wild shape forms. Challenge rating 6, it could be a Brachiosaurus or a mammoth, that kind of a thing. It also is good to see different kinds of familiars, and it's something that I do find myself, even though I have D&D Beyond, it's something I find myself still referencing consistently, and that I think is ultimately what's the best part, the true defining factor, whether the app is worth it. If I already have a means to give me everything that's canon in the game, like D&D Beyond, but I still find myself coming back to this app because it's a quicker reference guide. Number 1. And by the same token as the last one, 5th edition Spellbook. This is yet another app that I find myself coming to consistently, even though I have D&D Beyond to look up the spells. I think the interface, because I'm just looking at spells, works very well. and it gives me pretty much everything I need. It's got the entirety of the spell list as it stands, I think up through Xanathar's guide. I have to look. It did have means to go in and update things. I don't know if it has like some of the obscure spells like the Acquisitions Incorporated spells or the Golder spells. I don't think so. We can go ahead and just search. No, it doesn't have those. So there may be, I know there was a way to update to add in the Elemental Evil or the Xanathar spells, so you might be able to find a way to update this as well. But basically, yeah, I mean, that is what it is. You can see here's, you know, different, you can create spell books for your own characters if you want to create one so that like you only have access to a certain list. You can manage different things. I think you can, you can add sounds. Oh, I guess if you wanted to add sound options to the different spell books, you could. All the different kind of settings you could have for it, you know, keeping the filter bar, kind of like freeze panes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, you could choose the different classes. So let's look at just the bard spells and it'll show you those. You could choose the bard spells. I don't know why the spell levels go all the way up to 30, considering there is nothing past a 9th level spell, but that's like, here's the 8th level bard spells, right? We could just see those real quick. Or about, let's go 5th level paladin spells. They have other in here, so I don't know what other encompasses, but I guess, you know, if you wanted to add something else. And then there's a filter system on the side. You can filter out the different schools of magic, what books they're from, so you can see the books that I have access to here are Elemental Evil, Player's Handbook, Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and Xanathar's Guide. Are they concentration? Are they ritual? What components do they have, if any? Does it have gold costs associated with them? What's the casting time, the range, and the duration? And you just hit apply, and it'll tell you what those are. Again, it's a super simple app. And again, you have this little quick guide here to reset the filters, hide the filters, and then sort by name rather than spell level. But like I said, I have D&D Beyond that has access to every single spell, and it's canon, and it's in a nice format. But I still find myself referring to this Spellbook app when I need to quickly reference something because I've had it for years. I've been using it, and it does exactly what I need it to do. Pull up spells relatively quickly. And I can use this offline, which is nice. I don't need to be connected to the internet like I need to be with D&D Beyond. So that is it, folks. That is my top 8 D&D apps. I could have probably tried to stretch it to 10, but I didn't really think I had anything that I could really, you know, want to push to that. Like I said, I could have put like Dragon Plus or some other like the D&D Beyond player app, but I'm not like a huge fan of that, so I didn't feel like including it. The player app is good, it just needs to get better. So anyway, I gave you my top 8, but let me know in the description, what is your number 1 D&D app, the one you have to have above all else? And then I guess also throw out, is it Android or iOS, so that if it is Android, I can pick it up and check it out. So thank you again to my patrons on Patreon for continuing to support the channel. Thank you to all of you who have come out to subscribe to the channel lately. We are just boosting up those YouTube numbers consistently. 50K is right around the corner. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.